I think we will get started just to do justice to everyone's time. So thank you for those who joined. There'll be more people that I'll let in during the call. Everyone knows the deal, sort of, mute yourself. But before we get into content, please, first question. My webinars or things are always interactive. We're here to talk a bit about AI and critical risk management, critical control management. So who's doing what at the moment? Can you just give you 30 seconds? Are you actively doing something, actively using the tool? If you are, how are you doing that? Or is your business doing it? Or have you seen something happen? Really, really curious to get some insights here. Such a powerful tool that I'm sure there can be lots of different ways. So just throw something in the chat for us. And because no doubt we can loop back to this as we go through this. Thanks, Steve. Thanks for going first, mate. Rebecca, utilizing any interested, Rebecca, what that might look like, but if we can keep it high level at the moment. Right, there's a specific use case. Wendy, improving wording, identifying potential additional controls. Thanks, Wendy. Brad, using Copilot to help review and analyze risk data. Nice. Stephen M, not being used at the moment. Good. Oil and gas industry, big operators exploring early stages. Nice. Thank you. And certainly, thank you for that. Anyone else got something? I could go on and on about how I'm excited about the future state, but it's not about me today. Uh, WST Tasmania not using at the moment. Oh, okay, cool. All right, jump to the next one, mate. So we're all here today to, yeah, have a bit of a. Oh, where's our little introduction slide? Did I put
Next one, I
everything in the
think,
wrong
mate.
order?
No,
Oh, there
that's
you go.
okay.
Might go the introductions first.
Yeah,
Um, Actually, sorry, buddy. Let's go backwards one. If you're right
yeah,
for me, just to gloss on this one. So, look, I've do a lot of work in the critical risk space. There are some things I've been using, like everyone else. Haven't yet found something that I think is really fantastic. Certainly at the end of today, that there's something that Ethan will show that I personally believe looks pretty good. But that's not the purpose of today. And if people have done a lot of work, you can see here, he can sum this up really, really well. Um, you know, Certainly creating a critical risk management framework and program from scratch is a lot of time. It's a lot of effort. And on the blue there on the right hand side, you can see some examples of some of those areas where we spend a bit of time. And there's a nice question there. Is anyone seeing any one of those as being the 80/20 rule? Is there one of those that's really taking a lot of time for you or your business? Um, Curious about that. And on the left there, those boxes there talk about how, some of you probably already got to this point already. I know certainly for me and the tool I've been using for bowtie development, I have saved ourselves probably 20, 25 hours worth of work by using the right tool and the quality that I'm able to produce and build in all of the rule sets. I'm really happy with, obviously, and then our clients are happy because we don't have to spend this inordinate amount of time to produce one thing. We can use that time somewhere else. Um, so that's a really good overview there. People can read that. I don't think I'm going to read into that too much, except to say if you've done this, dabbled in this world for a while, there's a lot of work, a lot of rework, and there's continuing work required. And there's a real opportunity here, which Egan will take us through on what that could look like or could be next. Thanks, mate. I'll introduce myself, mate, and then I'll go over there. So I think most of you know me now. Been doing mining safety or high hazard industry safety now for a long time, and certainly a lot of work in the critical risk space. And I've working with Egan and Kim to help them in a platform in a way that we can certainly expedite and do this whole world better. Over to you, mate.
yeah. Thanks a lot, Christian. My name is Zeki Narayan, director of MindGuard AI. We formed MindGuard AI at 2023, only 3 years ago. But in AI years, it feels like 30 years already, with the speed that we have to keep building, which is very exciting. And obviously, I've got a lot of side experience across multiple, 5 different companies in mining, and recently been also working as a C time to time. And we have Jem as well, who's our principal, I guess, AI engineer, also one of the co-founders of MindGuard AI, and he's the brain and the architect of our solutions, keeping them nice, clean, working, and secure. So that's what he does. And we've been already working with multiple partners. We should probably update this slide. There's a lot more companies that are now running on production with some of our products. Um, Going to the next one. So today we're going to go talk about how we can use AI in general. That's the topic for today for CCM generation, especially development of it. So in our experience, what we found is AI is extremely useful, especially LLMs are extremely useful for drafting documents in a structured way.
So, sorry, mate. Can
Yeah.
you just break down what is
Yeah,
LLM for
yeah. So the
people?
large language models, which is what we call now in the news as AI, mostly are actually large language models. It is a type of AI, but in the news, when people talk about AI, it is the large language models that we're talking about most of the time nowadays. Especially for admin tasks or document heavy tasks, large language models are incredibly effective. And I am sure you guys are already playing with most of the players like ChatGPT, Anthropic, Google Gemini has already incredible capabilities to do incredible amount of work in short amount of time. We also use our generic, I guess, tools, the ones that I mentioned for quality checks. So you can throw in the work that you've done and actually get it to basically review and get a bit of a quality update and actions to fix. And beyond that, you can also use, I guess, um, AI, generic AIs to build a team and work on the documents together. That's also quite powerful. But what we're finding, unfortunately, is it is not easy to make a workflow out of AI tools that everyone can use it with the same consistency. And also, it is hard to basically follow the human oversight when you have generic tools. So everyone will type their own prompts, even if you have standardized prompts. If you are inputting something else in the chat box, there's a risk of bias going into your work, which we really don't want, especially in critical control space. Um, and yeah, I guess the reviewable part, running a chatbot in the workshop environment to confirm a bow tie isn't really practical. So there's definitely a need for better AI solution in that space. So I guess yeah, thanks a lot for the answers coming in to that question. So there's a lot of opportunity here that we can share and learn from each other. So Brad is using Copilot. Wendy is using identifying, wording, rewriting, additional controls, which is fantastic. And using NotebookLM is a very strong one because it is using a very good RAG system, which we also develop our own to actually beat NotebookLM on that one. But yeah, highly appreciate your shares, and I hope everyone can actually contribute to these chats and learn from each other throughout the next slides as well. So obviously, how do we actually use AI, just generic AI, let's say, without losing quality? So there's some tips here from our experience. So obviously, to start with, you'll need to provide the context of the risk that you're working with, your operational boundaries and key assumptions. And you can just type those in, I guess, in the chat. You can then basically request a structure. So you can actually define what the structure should be in your prompt. And it will try to do the structure to its best capability, but obviously there's some issues there in regards to sticking to a constant structure. But it will do a good job. And you can also, I guess, force the format to a certain type of table or Word document. And nowadays AI is quite powerful to be able to do that. And then you can finalize, maybe copy paste the outcome, edit it, put it back into a chatbot for quality check as well. So generic chat is very useful. There's a lot of answers coming into the question of, um, the what would you pick? So and Gray is also talking about using cursor. That's a very powerful way to do your own custom solution. Definitely, it's a way to go. Thanks a lot for sharing that, mate. Okay, very good. The next one, we'll actually look at the how AI can actually turn controls into measurable performance standards and how to do it quickly. So that's a powerful use of AI again, to actually look at the scope and the purpose, and then have basically um, opportunities to convert high-level control statements into testable, measurable requirements. But obviously, to be able to allow that kind of accuracy and generation, you'll need to know exactly what to ask to AI. And that's probably the part that takes the most. Thanks a lot for the share as well. So arc flash event, definitely a difficult one. I find dropped dropped objects quite a difficult one and debatable. And yeah, please drop in your favorite risk that you had the most challenge to come up with a risk assessment.
Mate, can I jump
Hmm.
in here on this one too with this slide? So I can speak to this one from experience where I see so many different formats of a performance standard, or so many organizations don't have performance standards and say, well, give me something. And I second that if we're not clear on what does it need to look like and what are the parameters, you can end up with yeah, so much variance. Um, even then, and I've seen this happen where if we're not careful on the verification, so let's say the performance data, there's two parts. One is, well, how do we want the control to perform? And then the second part is, well, what's the verifications that we set up? And sometimes there's no match. It'll just do that. It's a little hallucination and won't actually map back to the criteria. So definitely, I second what you're saying there. We have to be really clear on how and what we want it to do. Otherwise, yeah, you'll get some stuff, but may not be the right stuff, but we think it is.
Yep. Thanks a lot, Christian. Um, Next one is about basically verification, building the performance requirements. And obviously, those standards need more than just a checkbox. And generic AI can produce consistent and comprehensive plans. Um, and it is possible. Again, as Christian said, it is just slightly difficult to keep it on the same format every time that you actually run it. In regards to the question, which problem do you see the most in verifications? Do we understand wrong things verified? Um, Mitch is saying difficult performance standards for something like restricted areas when they differ significantly for different tasks and areas. Yes, spot on. Different scopes makes it a lot
That's a good
difficult.
question, mate. Sorry to interrupt. That's a good
Yeah.
question, maybe for everyone. If people have verifications, where are you seeing the biggest pain point in that verification process within your organization at the moment? Is it something in the design, like some prompts there, or is it something else? So maybe we'll give everyone 30 seconds to have a bit of a think and reflect on that. Um,
For evidence collection. Yeah. Thanks, Brad.
hmm.
That's a common theme.
Well, and while everyone's doing that, I was playing around the other day with doing a performance standard, and it came up with some verification, um, some items which mapped okay. However, it treated each verification as its own separate task. and it created like, let's say 20 different verifications for the one critical control. And we know if an organization has 100 critical controls, then that's, what, 2,000 verifications, and then it becomes just big. So again, it's understanding, well, how, one of the things we do is, well, how do we synergize that and say, well, here's a list of 20 things. Who's going out at the same time checking the same things? Can you then synergist? I think that's the word, synergize that as opposed to just adding 20 tasks to the organization.
Yeah,
And then I'll just keep talking. So, Wendy, verifying the actual control, not just having support factors. Love that. And Gordon, we see a real lack of understanding of safety community, how work is actually performed to lead to poor understanding of critical control. Yeah, nice. All right, Matt, back to you.
excellent. Thanks a lot for the comments. They are quite valuable to share. Again, the real power of the AI isn't just creating the content. It's also maintaining that quality at scale. So if you have a tool that you're using that is automated with quality assurance, it will actually make hours of work into basically half an hour or less. So that's pretty exciting. You can use AI to delete duplicates in your bow tie and detect them. The generic ones, you can just copy paste your bow tie in it. You can apply some quality principles, and you have to develop them yourself to run them. And then basically, you can flag weak language, identify any missing degradation, check alignment. Basically, any sorts of quality checks on your outputs can be done using generic AI quite successfully. So please have a play with those when you got the time. Sorry, Christian, did you want to add something else?
I was, mate. Just the one where I've seen some real benefit is building in the rule sets for what is a control versus support activity and verification activity. Doing that automatically, so what's that? That second dot point removes so much wasted time and effort of people thinking and having debates in bow tie sessions and all of that. It's the rule is the rule. It's black and white. And if you don't like it, then you need to upgrade or enhance this thing to be a control.
Hmm.
There you go.
Thanks a lot. Thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah, and again, obviously, there's a lot of benefits using AI straight away, and I would highly advise everyone to jump in and play with them. If you haven't done so, but obviously, hallucinations is a real risk. So, obviously, AI can look very confident and trick you into, and that confidence can trick you time to time. So it is essential that you always ask for resources and make sure that you ask AI to verify that came up with those results. That part just takes time, obviously, because you are asking AI something, trusting it, and then asking it again. That process takes a lot of time when you're actually developing a CCM, I guess, framework. Um, Obviously, prompt roulette is a difficult one. Like developing the right prompts takes a lot of time and resources to actually get the output that you want, and standardizing those is quite difficult at the moment across many users if you're a large organization. And traceability, like um, so how do you actually trace who's done what work, wherever the human in the loop approvals, like actually logging those approvals would be fantastic, but it's not really supported at the moment in your generic AI. Again, data governance, like when you use it, a model, what does the model actually do with the data? Can you use any model? Even your company approved AI, is that actually safe? So those are the questions that you'll need to consider. So you don't actually release sensitive information when you want to build a bow tie from past incidents. Maybe that's not the right platform to use. And change drift. So obviously, your standards and verifications basically change over time, and updating your bow ties or performance verifications shouldn't be with prompts going back and forth with AI to trying to update it. That would take a lot of time. You're probably gonna have to start again. Um, so which risk actually varies the most from these ones on the chat as a question?
And while that's happening, mate, can I put you on the spot there, just with that prompt roulette? Could you give an example of how someone could ask AI to build a bow tie and just how a different sentence or sentences could just result in a completely different outcome. Could you expand on that, maybe?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Obviously, prompting itself is an engineering skill right now. There's a lot of support out there to build really good prompts, and you can use AI to actually build some of your prompts as well. But obviously, if you don't have a platform to save those good prompts, everyone else will write their own prompts, and the risk on one side, the bow tie on one side will look completely different on the bow tie on the next side, or even between industries or different companies, they will look quite different. Um, I'm seeing a lot of answers on the what scares you the most. Yeah, hallucination is a big one. Change drift, it is a bit difficult to do with generic AI for sure to manage.
Maybe
All
just to
right.
follow that one on, mate. I'm just thinking,
Mm,
so could there be a significant difference between someone says, okay, create me a bow tie for dropped objects and just leave it at that, versus act as a, I don't know, critical risk management specialist, create me a bow
mm,
tie for this in this location. As simple as that, that can result in pretty significant variance.
yeah,
Is that what you're
yeah.
seeing?
Oh,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah. That's just a simple comparison of different prompts. But even you might, for example, have a prompt with structure inside built-in technical structures that would yield in a more structured output. But some people won't have that skill to be able to write that prompt as well. So there's that prompt roulette is a real risk. Thanks a lot,
Yeah,
Gord.
good point, Gordon. Yeah.
Right on. And different agents can provide very different responses for the same script. Yeah, even the same agent time to time, because when you think about it, we are running critical, control management across basically years, a program, and we update it constantly. Um, the Another risk is that actually your AI model that you used is actually improving and changing its behavior as those companies release different AIs. Even that has a risk of changing your style of output as well. So that consistency is really hard to catch when the baseline model is changing how it behaves at the background as well. Minimum guardrails. So obviously, again, everyone should give it a go. There's a lot of benefits, as we already discussed, to use generic AI, but try to use it for, draft only, used as a copilot and helper, which I've heard already. There's a lot of people using it that way. Um, Try to stick to the definitions. So if you have a standard on critical control management, try to make sure you use that in your prompts. So you can get clear distinctions versus what's control, what's verification, what's, support activity. Make sure that that is actually embedded in your process using generic AI. And try to de-identify any data that you don't trust sharing with the AI. If you'd like to use, actual data from your sites, incidents, or safety management documents to build a bow tie, make sure they are redacted, or if you have an approved channel to use so. And obviously, somehow capture what you've done with AI. Even screenshots or copy paste into Word, your conversations would help. If you'd like to audit trail, it's a manual way you can do it. Um, Again, basically, what is the real friction? So here we're talking about scaling a generic AI beyond, one champion. But the key message here is, the generic AI will work until you actually need consistency across your work, but also consistency across your peers. And it will also work until you need traceability and governance, especially in CCM. You need those. So that's why MindGuard AI has worked a lot on this problem to see how we can actually solve it. And therefore, we actually suggest a better way to do it. It doesn't have to be our product, but I think that this is the right path in the future. Um, so we believe we can definitely use AI in a structured way, sustainable way for critical control management and developing these frameworks. You would need to have a structured data model. So MindGuard AI is developing basically our own critical control database where we have, thousands of approved, quality approved MUAs and controls and has its consequences threats actually defined. And we are growing that with AI. So we are actually using AI to check our database constantly to improve our database, and that's really powerful. And building that, the global database for controls is key. And then obviously standardized templates. So you don't want to go get a different bow tie every time you produce a bow tie from generic AI. So you'd like to have that consistent. Same with the performance standards. It's in the same format, so everyone can read it and understand straight away what the controls are and what the verification plan is from one form. Um, and 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 you'd like to have built-in QA rules. So you'd like to basically have the AI output, and then human editing, and then a quality check. And just repeat this process as you actually work your framework. And that's essential to actually have a really good output with AI. And basically, you'll need to have a proper database, secure solution that you can actually have your audit trail and logs. You'll know exactly who's done what. And clean exports, so you can actually create a nice printout that's quite readable, easy to put into your control document. You can basically, with a button click, you should be able to export your document and move it to your controlled library. So that's why we've done a lot of work with critical risk AI. And Christian asked me to share that tool. I think this is the first time we're sharing this, isn't it, Christian, with
It
with
is,
the
mate.
audience?
It
Yeah, so
is.
it's pretty exciting. And don't judge if it fails, but always demonstrations are always exciting. I think it will work fine, but basically, we are about to finalize the tool for commercial purposes. That's just a couple of weeks away, and free trials. We'll discuss that at the end as well. So what the tool does is it will now generate a structured bowtie live. We'll have constant templates. We'll have verification built and automated quality checks and human in the loop design. So we'll just rush into the tool. Basically, it's a simple web app, um, like all of our apps. And in this area, you can just create your new project, and that could be a set of risk register. And for example, if you're doing, 2026 reviews, you can call the project 2026 reviews. Let's call it webinar and today's date. And now I'll get my dashboard of that project. And you can now basically go in and start your first risk. Obviously, when we deploy these tools, we set up most of the scoping automatically for your site. But we also built the tool. It's always good to show that we built the tool for any industries. And you can choose or type in industries. Let's do one with mining because I'm the most familiar with it. And you can choose multiple countries because some companies actually run on multiple jurisdictions, and that is important. And the tool will use these to do the next steps. It will help understanding the scope. Let's do Queensland one because we're in Brisbane today. I am. And with the consequence types, you can actually choose beyond this safety and health. And that's quite powerful with the tool because it doesn't actually limit you just to safety. If you're running a business continuity plan on a certain risk, you can, and you just need to type the risk to be able to do it, which is also quite exciting. But let's use health and safety because that's probably most of our audience today. What I really like about this one is if we just, for example, go and throw in an MUE, it will actually automatically force the user to check it. So AI will do a full audit on if this MUE actually meets the standards of being a MUE. Obviously, in this part of the demo. We can have some gaps waiting for AI, but we can have chat on as well, just to keep that going.
That I'll jump in here, mate. That's
Mm,
probably an example where I mentioned earlier about just the AI building in the rule sets. So I'm sure people have come across bow ties where you have a consequence as the center of the knot, so vehicle collision or a cause or things like that, and just being able to build in those rule sets. So it's okay, it doesn't meet it, do a reword or update, or that yeah, apply the recommendation. It just I've seen so many bow ties just go off the rails because they got the center of the knot wrong.
mm, definitely. And obviously, we prepare a lot of MUEs that will cover you 95% of the time that you can choose from, and they're already tested and verified in this dropdown. But if you'd like to type in your own risk for some reason, you can also do that and get a check as well. So the tool doesn't actually move on without making sure the MU is valid. That's a quality check. Site information is critical and high priority because how often we prepare MOEs, especially prepping the bow tie with our safety teams. It would take weeks if you give someone to do a draft bow tie from scratch to do it properly. But have the tool, basically, you can just go and check in your um, old bow ties, any SWIs procedures that you have about that risk, which will then narrow down the rest of the process. That's extremely valuable. But we also actually, when we build the bow tie, every node, control node, will come with its own reference to those documents as well, which is really helpful. And again, by design, everything we input at the top basically gets input into the next AI tool. That's again the human in the loop design without you realizing. So now the scope is actually built by the help of these documents. If you don't have documents, the scope will still work, but you might need to edit more just to align. But if you have the documents, it's 90% of the time you almost don't need to touch the scope because it actually understands your context of your site from those documents. And if you think that something is off, you can just drag it along or add new ones. That's all possible. So we actually look at the scope in people, locations, equipment, activities, and scenarios. And in the assumptions, obviously, if there are documents attached, it will actually note some of the assumptions from those documents. And you can add more and also put the bases in on what your assumptions are for this bow tie. Typical risk assessment stage for note taking and governance. And if you have uploaded documents, the uploaded documents will be used as grounding files for analysis. And you can also add more files on the top back again. But also it will suggest additional files to consider, which our database will capture these anyway. And if you really want to go technical, this is a tool that we built. It is not necessarily extremely optional, but if you'd like to actually have a very narrow risk assessment, you can get AI suggested form generated from all the information that we provide above, and you can actually put those details as well to narrow down the scope further. So now, next stage well, it's a very timely question because this takes a bit of time. So because you have chosen Queensland, does the system automatically reference states? Yes. So the system, especially in the deep research that we're running now, looks at the relevant states. Initially, your state, so it will look at Queensland, and then it will pick up relevant states like New South Wales, the WA. But then it also looks at one international area that is also relevant. So we built it in a way that it is always respecting your choices, but then looking at alternatives as well.
And you'll probably talk on the next slide, mate, but what about then proactively about the incidents and fatality reports from those states and jurisdictions as well?
Yeah, definitely. So basically, I think because we kept those detailed questions empty, it gave us a relatively short report. Normally it's a lot longer, but you can go back and run it again. In this report, you can see basically the definitions, and then it will look at the RHSQ data from Queensland. It will pick up, looks like it picked United States to benchmark. Then basically primary regulation and standards coming in, and there's some international benchmarking coming in as well. And global best practices summarized in different levels from EMESRT. And there's actually a verified library where you can go and trace these back to actual links, which is really helpful to double check this work. And you can always edit and add your own research here before you continue as well, if you've got better material. This will help. This will probably take the longest, about a minute and a half. There's a question about what's homelesssafety.org.
So I'll
Yeah,
before you do that one, mate, I'll jump in here a little bit of my soapbox. So the if we think about one of our biggest challenges when we create our own bow ties locally is we hardly ever tap into the knowledge base at the greater industry level, let alone within our same company. And that's why I see there's some pretty good opportunities here just to bring in all of those learnings and things written in blood automatically and build that in at the start. I think that's pretty cool. And that's just me personally speaking as well. But then I'll hand over to you, mate.
yeah, for sure. At
So
the moment,
yeah.
obviously this is a pilot version that we're sharing first time. And in the final version that we built already, the research is a lot more grounded. And as I mentioned, what we're building is the MindGuard AI library, where the tool will rely mostly on in regards to picking up high quality threats, consequences, and controls. So there's a lots going on behind the scenes in this step. Basically, all of your scoping, your initial information, the research, and your site documents gets ingested into an AI machine of multiple steps, and this will produce the draft bowtie. And the draft bowtie is a generic draft bowtie studio. So you guys are probably some of you will be familiar with a lot of bowtie applications in the market where you can use them without AI just to input your data to make the format look like a bowtie. So this tool already does all of that beyond and beyond, and it just works on your web browser.
Oh, the M, not sure. Yeah, that safety.org as a citation, not sure, mate. I might just defer back to Eakin's thing about the pilot study.
Yeah, I think we left the additional questions empty, so that should narrow down the scope. If you rerun this again, the research will come back with correct citations.
Oh, it's almost there. Maybe if anyone else has a question right now, throw it in the chat. And maybe, mates, I guess one of the challenges too is as there's always incidents in industry, there's always fatalities in industry, so ensuring that continues to flow in. I'll stop that. Go for this, mate, because I'm conscious
Yeah,
of time.
for sure. All right. So basically now we have our top events coming from that scope, and you can actually change it to loss of mobile, for example. So everything in the bowtie is editable. And you can also validate it again if you liked it in this stage as well. So every node has an inspector module. The threads are coming here, so let's look at some of them. So you have your brake systems, road surface degradation, steering suspension, failures, wet weather. contaminating surfaces for losing control again, excessive speed for that road geometry or condition. Yeah, many threats are coming in from the site documents that we have uploaded. And again, you can go to in any of them, change them, or you can build a new one from clicking here and build new controls. At the moment, this version brings plenty. That means it is forcing to have plenty of output, but you can narrow them down into a certain scope and site company context as well. And basically on the right-hand side, let's go to our formation of after the loss happened. You can have consequences basically here, and then those consequences will basically result in some sort of an outcome. And in between, usually you'll have your emergencies. Every control it comes with a tag of basically the if it's an action, object, or system. And you can also click on any of the controls and change it, validate it again, look at the reference from our database. You can change the control scheme and also change the location. One thing to mention is the bowtie is built with time horizon. So you'll have your longest horizon on the left and shortest horizon on the right. And again, the right-hand side, you'll have your shortest horizon here and then longest horizon on the right. And that's how the bowtie gets built. Obviously, when you look at some of the controls, they don't look like controls. And what we do is actually run our quality audit. Obviously, you can change anything in here before running the quality audit. You don't have to just keep going. You can also delete, drag, and drop those boxes like a normal bowtie generator.
This current view is essentially a first draft. It's a data dump from all the reference sources. And now the button you've clicked then just does the QA checks against all of that data to see if it passes the tests.
Now
Mm.
it will define basically which of those nodes are actual controls and which ones are support activities or verification activities. It will also basically recommend certain wording, different wording. If you'd like to make one of those, support activities as a control, there will be a suggestion as well that you can consider. And obviously then look, if there's anything that's not in the uploaded documents in your safety management system, it will also at the end will tell you, look, you've got some work to do to update your safety management system to actually have those controls if you are keeping it on the bowtie. So now basically every control analysis came through. So basically you'll have this one as a support activity because specifications are just documentation. They can't be controls. If you really want to make it a control, here's a suggestion, and you can just apply that, and it will become a control, which is handy. And the evidence files are still there. Where the file where the control is coming is in the evidences. And beyond that, obviously, next step is running the critical analysis, so that if you're happy with your controls, which are the white ones at this stage, the AI will now grab those white controls and run them through a critical risk scoring scheme. This is one is built by ICMM, but we are quite flexible to change your standard in regards to how this calculation happens. We are following ICMM at this point. And now every control will get a scoring on 4 criteria, and that will actually help the user to understand which controls are more stronger than the others. You'll also see the verification and support activities will go to left and right hand sides, and the controls will go away from the loss, the event, just to make it a lot easier to read, so you can just focus on the controls on each side. Obviously, because we imported a lot of files, it is a big bowtie and we haven't deleted it. It just takes a bit longer. Cool. So basically, if you look at the controls, every control gets an assignment of quality check with a bit of an explanation why. You can basically read it more here as well, a lot easier. And you can also turn it off and by force, but you need to put a reason why if you don't want to make that a critical control. And you can see some score really bad. For example, this one because you can't verify easily the operator speed on this side because you don't have the tool. And then what we also provide is this threshold tool. So if you have a certain threshold that you agree on those parameters, you can actually move this around to see how the model behaves in regards to selecting the number of controls. Let's say we pick 28, and next stage will be to actually sign off on these controls. So in this one, we ended up with 11 controls. Obviously, it's very important to edit the draft before you come to this stage, so you're happy with it because it's a lot harder to change from this point of view. And basically just type a name. The good thing is you can actually run this tool and do your edits live, and then add the participants in the room. And say lead 25, and what the tool will give you is a full sign-off sheet, and it will include your analysis, your research, and site information summarized, whatever you uploaded. The bowtie is coming on the final version to be here as well. And you can also have the critical controls listed. You can download that and get the sign off basically signed in the room, which would save a lot of time. And next stage is to confirm those critical controls and go actually creating the performance standards. So you'll do it by one using, again, human in the loop and AI stages. So you can get an AI suggestion on what the control objective should be, but obviously everything is editable and to update. This one is engineered road surfaces and drainage. So idea is to maintain road surfaces to a certain engineering standard. If you have road design standards, for example, you can drop it in here, which then actually impacts the rest of your performance requirements build. Next parts, you can actually build a very easy to read control performance metrics. So now AI is actually building a lot of detailed information from all the scoping, research, the objective, and the additional procedures that you uploaded for this specific control gets amalgamated into your performance metrics.
So, for example, for this one, I might upload my road design standard and my maintenance of roads procedure as one of the documents, and then I'll crawl through that,
Mm. Yeah, so at the moment, because we upload nothing, it just says evidence not found, which is a good thing. So this is just coming from AI's knowledge at this point, but it's still pretty good if you don't have that standard. And basically, you go through the each parameter is filled, and you can actually edit or delete these as well to your liking. And then you can see the failure modes are available to review, update, and edit before moving on to, I guess, the triggers. Again, you can add a trigger, delete a trigger, add an action step inside the trigger of that performance. When you're happy with all of those above, part 1 to 3, you can actually ingest that in again to run your verification activities to be listed. Again, basically AI, human control, human loop, and then use the outcome in the next AI. So then the process is a lot quicker. And then basically verification activities gets listed as a draft. So a perfect drafting tool. It will actually tell you, what you need to do around verification activity, how to do it, who should do it, how often we should do it, and duration. And these are all changeable to your, I guess, resourcing and risk appetite in the cross section. And basically get a comprehensive analysis. Last part is pretty exciting because it actually builds also some sort of an AI support to suggest who should actually own this control. That's something is quite interesting in a lot of workshops. Not a lot of people like raise their hands to get a control. So this one helps with actually taking that bias out in the room and emotions, because it will actually look at your legislation, your state, look at your competency requirements. If you're in Queensland, RS22 suggestions will come here, and it will. We hope this will reduce, the friction point of choosing who the control is, and also make it more practical.
And I think too, mate, this part five and part six also support this trend we're seeing, which is a good one around the competency requirements for people who own a critical control, which is
Mm,
important.
definitely. Yeah, so there's some suggestions to pull these into your management structure, also provided as a draft. And when you edit everything out and you're happy, then you can just mark it as approved, and you can actually export it then as a nice printable format. So all of your performance requirements will come in this nice format with details. And in the later versions, all of these will go into our dashboards. So you'll be able to see how much time we're planning to spend for managing critical controls, I guess globally on your operation. Um, and yeah, really nice and clean. The other opportunity we have is to actually generate um, training material as well. So you can actually now generate infographics. An example instead of time would be something like this. Our passion in MindGuard AI to join our tools with training inputs as well. So when you do a risk assessment that's finalized, approved, you'd like to be able to share an infographics on what that control is to help you train our people. Because if people don't know what the controls are in the field, um, nothing matters. Like this work doesn't matter. Same thing with instant AI that we do. We actually keep pushing the limits of these tools to ensure that they give us materials that we can go and share it. Obviously, this gets confirmed and saved. There was a question on how the threshold is analyzed. So we actually put that in the matrix. Obviously, this is ICMM matrix that we built, and that's how we calculate it at the moment. It's up for interpretation. That's why we provide a threshold to choose accordingly.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
Uh,
Approve, yeah, approval workflow is coming. Definitely on the works. Yeah. Thanks, Wendy.
so, mate, if you stop sharing there, I'm just Cameron, your question. I think there's two different things here. So what the platform there had was a threshold for what's a critical control effectiveness score, and that was what sliding up and down. The other aspect in relation to MUEs, that's still up for the coal mine operator or the operator to define, what that level is, single fatality, multi-fatality, or things like that. So it doesn't change that. This then just kicks in for whatever the operator says is critical at a level. If this risk is now critical, then it'll fall in here at the start. All right, mate,
Yeah,
we've got 3 minutes
and
left. So,
we actually focused on building critical risk AI tool after actually maturing instant AI, because the instant AI, critical risk AI, and safety management will actually work together. Meaning instant AI will know exactly your critical controls that you already have, and the bow ties from the safety management system pulled into that event. And the outcome of that instant AI, if you find the critical control failed, it will trigger a workflow for you to update your bow tie and performance verifications with that incident knowledge. So we're trying to make sure that we have a live system instead of having months and months between having an incident to updating your risk assessments and controls. Hopefully we can help the industries with this three product across the spectrum.
skip that one, mate. We don't have enough time for that. Let's
No worries at
just go to the
all.
next one. Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously, part of this webinar, we are more than happy to share a free trial license, so you'll be able to use most functionalities. Please jump in. Happy to, get that tool out so you guys can have a play with it and see how it runs and give us feedback because we are constantly improving all of our products.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, really, really, I guess what the trial does, isn't it, mate? You just go from start to finish like you just did there, and anyone can choose whatever risk. So you might have a bow tie you need to produce like instantaneously, then this can give you a tick in the box there as well. Gordon, this is definitely a tool to fast track confidence response to the journey. Yeah, absolutely, mate. This is one of our challenges, isn't it? I do a lot of training in critical risk, but still there's such a big gap. So can this platform build in all of the skills and knowledge that we would normally train, still with the human toll gates, but we just, we don't need to expend all that time and effort and energy, and this can do it in real time as well. Steve, great to see a system which has modules which all talk to each other, streamline proactive, reactive processes. Yeah, mate. Um, I've been joking with Egan and the team that once this whole module thing is built out, what the role of a safety professional in the future might look like. I think that would be interesting.
Yeah,
Brad, thanks. Great
that,
opportunity.
that
Yeah.
that's why we build all of our tools with human in the loop. Like we have the technology to build it agentic. We choose not to because we are playing with people's livelihoods, and every step needs to be approved by a human. So if you can free up the safety team's time to do proactive tasks in the field, that is our mission.
Hmm. Nice. So we're 1 minute over. So I guess for those that have to go, we'll get you a copy of the slide pack with that link, or you can just email me, or you can direct, and we'll get you into there, and we'll get you a copy of the slide pack. I guess we can stay on the line, mate, for a little bit more if people have questions. And for those that have got to go, thank you so much for your time. Hopefully, it was of help, regardless of the demo, but even just some of the rules and learnings. So thank you.